Hello, and welcome back to Loss, Love, and all the other shit in between. I'm Sean, and today we're diving into something messy, complicated, and impossible to ignore: sex, when love isn't the issue. Before we start, let me be clear. This isn't a lecture. It's not advice. It's not a promise that things will suddenly feel perfect. What we're doing today is rare. We're talking honestly about what's real, about the spaces where love exists, but something still feels missing. Here's the truth. Love alone doesn't guarantee closeness, desire, or connection. You can care deeply about someone, be loyal, committed, even devoted, and still feel a quiet distance. A mismatch between what exists and what you actually feel. And that gap, it's subtle, almost invisible, but it's there. Most relationships don't collapse in a dramatic fight. They fade slowly, quietly, without warning. And most of the time, it's not betrayal or conflict that causes the drift. It's the quiet absence of attention and presence. It's the skipped moments, the conversations left half-formed, the touch that loses warmth. You can sit next to someone you love, share a bed, laugh together, even have sex, and still feel alone. Not because the love isn't there, not because you've done anything wrong. Connection needs more than physical proximity. It needs being truly seen, understood, and felt. Intimacy disappears when presence disappears. Your body and your mind crave a partner who's there, emotionally, who meets you in the moment. And when that is missing, closeness starts to fade. Touch becomes brief, sex becomes routine, affection turns into a task at the end of the day, which, spoiler alert, never really ends. Intimacy isn't a checklist. You can schedule it, you can't multitask it, you can't scroll your way into it. Real connection needs curiosity, attention, and emotional courage. And when those are missing, resentment creeps in. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind where you stop reaching, stop hoping, start protecting yourself instead of opening yourself to another. Most people aren't asking for more sex. They're asking to feel chosen again, chosen in the present moment, chosen for attention, for connection, for emotional intimacy. They want to feel that they matter, that someone is really there for them. Sex alone is rarely the problem. Presence is. Attention is. Being truly seen is. Physical intimacy reflects emotional intimacy. When emotional connection fades, sexual desire shifts. Sex becomes routine, mechanical, or absent, not because attraction is gone, but because the space it needs is crowded out by everything else. Love can survive absence in sex, but desire cannot survive absence in attention. Many people think chemistry is a switch that can be turned on or off, but intimacy isn't automatic. It's cultivated. It needs attention, time, and care. It needs noticing energy, timing, responses, and your moods. It's about being present with vulnerability and curiosity, not just bodies, but minds and hearts. Resentment grows quietly when these needs go unmet. Not explosive resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that convinces you it's easier to stop trying, to stop reaching, to protect yourself rather than risk disappointment. Over time, these layers of unmet presence creates a distance that no amount of love can bridge. People crave being prioritized, being chosen, being felt, being recognized as worthy of attention in the moment, right now. And that is often missing in relationships that seem strong on paper but feel hollow in practice. This episode isn't about fixing it. It's about naming reality, facing it honestly, and acknowledging the spaces where love exists, but attention, connection, and desire feel diminished. Naming reality is the first act of courage. Clarity is rare and powerful. Being present isn't simple. It requires noticing subtle changes and shifts. When a glance is missed, when laughter stops flowing naturally, when touch loses warmth, when curiosity about your partner's inner life dwindles. These are the signals that intimacy is quietly eroding. The first step is awareness, noticing what is real without judgment. Sex, at its deepest, is more than physical. It's communication, affirmation, vulnerability, and connection. It carries emotional resonance, trust, and understanding. When attention fades, all of these diminish. Touch becomes mechanical. Desire fades. Affection feels obligatory. Acknowledging the absence doesn't diminish love. Love can survive absence of attention. It doesn't make the relationship a failure. It makes it human, real. There is power in facing that truth without pretense, without judgment, without trying to force it into something it isn't. So today, we sit in it, we name it, we explore it honestly, without rules, without advice, without promises. We explore sex in relationships where love exists, but connection and desire feel challenged. That space is where truth lives, and truth is where your growth and clarity begin, even without easy answers. Feeling chosen, seen, and met in the moment isn't a luxury, it's necessary. Recognizing that need, naming it aloud, and acknowledging it without shame is the first step to understanding what you want, what you need, and what is real. Now let's sit with that. Let's acknowledge the quiet gaps, the subtle absences, the longing that exists even in loving relationships. Let's explore it without judgment, without trying to fix it. Let's give space to what is real and what matters most in intimate human connections. Now, this conversation isn't about rules. It isn't about quick fixes. It's about honesty with yourself and your partner, about naming what is present, what is absent, and what matters in the space where love and intimacy intersect. That honesty, the rare, unflinching acknowledgement of reality, is where this episode begins. Now that we've named the reality, that love alone doesn't guarantee closeness, that attention fuels intimacy, let's explore what actually happens in that space between desire and connection. It's subtle, almost invisible at first. A touch that lingers too briefly, a laugh that doesn't reach the eyes, a conversation that feels transactional. These aren't dramatic events, they're slow, quiet, almost insidious, cracks in intimacy that grow without notice. You can love someone deeply, value them, support them, commit to them, and still feel alone. That gap isn't malice or disinterest, it's absence of focus, absence of curiosity, absence of presence. Desire doesn't vanish because attraction dies. Desire fades when someone isn't fully met, fully acknowledged, fully seen. That's where connection falters and sex becomes performance rather than an exchange. Most couples don't notice at first. They chalk it up to busyness, stress, routines. We'll get to it later, but later never comes. Connection isn't something you schedule. It lives in choices of attention, engagement, and presence. Each small lapse adds up, and suddenly the spark that once felt effortless now requires effort. And effort without attention is exhausting. Desire isn't just arousal, it's emotional engagement. Curiosity about another person's mind, body, and soul. Anticipation, playfulness, trust. When intimacy arose, desire mutates into something mechanical, detached, perfunctory. Sex may happen, but it lacks richness, unpredictability, and shared vulnerability. Desire isn't dead, it's disconnected. That disconnection is often misunderstood. People think, I don't want them anymore, or they must not want me. But often it's not about the body or chemistry, it's about absence of attention and emotional resonance. You can desire someone, care for them, love them even, and still fill a gap that effort alone can't fill. Honesty, vulnerability, and recognition are missing. Day-to-day life feels like this. Touch becomes routine. A hug isn't a choice. It's a quick gesture before work. Affection happens only when the schedule allows it to. 10 minutes? Okay, a kiss. Sex feels like a task to tick, not a conversation between bodies and hearts. Curiosity about your partner's thoughts, fears, dreams quietly fades. People continue, they love, they care, they stay, but emotionally intimacy diminishes, leaving absence, a quiet longing that goes unnamed. They're present in body, absent in mind, and that absence feels like invisibility. It's not that they're unloved, they're not fully seen. Being unseen is isolating. This isn't about blame, it's about honesty, naming the experience without judgment. When you do, you start to understand the complexity. It's not a flaw, it's human. Love is real. Connection is real. Desire is real. How they interact isn't always straightforward. Presence is critical. It's the bridge between love and desire. It's choosing to be in the present moment, fully aware, engaged emotionally, mentally, physically. It's noticing subtle shifts in energy, curiosity, and vulnerability. Asking questions not to get answers, but because you want to know. Listening to understand, not respond. Touching because it matters, not because it's expected. When attention returns, even in small doses, the effect is profound. Touch regains warmth, desire becomes playful, conversations regain depth. That quiet longing fades. Small gestures, lingering glances, gentle touches, shared laughter carry immense weight because they're chosen, deliberate, and present. Now let's talk about what happens when life gets in the way of intimacy. It's not dramatic. There's no sudden betrayal, no explosive argument that shatters everything. Most of the time, it's a slow creep, a missing glance here, a joke that falls flat there, a touch that doesn't linger, a laugh that doesn't quite reach the eyes. And slowly, without even realizing it, the space between you grows. Not a physical space, not a literal gap, but an emotional distance that's harder to measure than anything else. It's in those tiny overlooked moments that intimacy starts to fray. And here's the kicker. It doesn't mean love is gone. Not at all. It just means love alone isn't enough to carry the weight of human connection. Think about the times you felt truly close to someone. I'm talking about the rare, almost magical moments where you're not just next to each other, but fully tuned in. Where one glance or a single touch carries meaning. Where you feel recognized, valued, and completely safe in your vulnerability. Those moments are fragile. They can't be forced, and they certainly don't happen automatically. They need attention. They need care. They need you to show up fully, even when it's uncomfortable, even when life is busy, even when your own head is full of stress and distractions. And that's exactly why sex often becomes a barometer of your relationship's health. Not because sex itself is the goal, but because it reflects all the layers underneath. When emotional connection starts to erode, when attention drifts, when curiosity fades, sex changes. It becomes less about mutual pleasure or connection and more about routine, habit, or obligation. Sometimes it even feels like a performance. And the worst part, most people chalk it up to lack of desire, lack of chemistry, or some failing in themselves or their partner. But it's rarely that simple. The true issue is almost always about what's happening emotionally, what's missing in intention, recognition, curiosity, and emotional availability. This is where honesty becomes critical. You have to be willing to name what's actually happening, even when it feels raw or uncomfortable, even when it seems easier to blame circumstances or your partner or even yourself. Because the truth is, intimacy isn't just about love. It's about presence. It's about engagement. It's about consistently showing up in ways that communicate, I see you, I value you, I want to be here with you. And when that's missing, no amount of love alone will bridge that gap. Let's get real about desire. Desire isn't just a feeling of wanting physical closeness. It's more profound than that. Desire is curiosity, attention, and anticipation. It's the spark that says, I want to know you. I want to experience you. I want to be fully present with you. When emotional intimacy fades, desire doesn't disappear overnight. It mutates. It becomes mechanical. It becomes doing the thing rather than being in the moment. It's still there in fragments, but it's detached from its emotional roots. And that detachment is silent, subtle, and easy to overlook until you wake up one day and realize the vibrancy that once existed has dulled. We live in a world that makes it easy to overlook. Modern life is relentless. Phones, work, kids, responsibilities, they all demand attention. And here's the danger. These distractions doesn't just pull time away, they pull attention away. Attention is intimacy. When attention shifts away from your partner, desire starts to feel mutated. And muted, you might still love each other. You might still be committed, but that spark, that feeling of being fully alive with someone starts to fade. And the longer it fades, the harder it is to get it back. So how do we get back? Not with tricks, not with techniques, not with frequency charts or self-help hacks. The key is small intentional moments that rebuild connection. It's noticing, it's listening, it's curiosity, it's vulnerability, it's the simple things that become monumental when practiced consistently. Asking about your partner's day and actually listening to the answer. Touching not because it's expected, but because you feel it matters. Laughing together without rushing. Sitting in silence and just being there. Checking in emotionally, asking how someone feels rather than what they think or what they did. These aren't grand gestures, they aren't cinematic moments of passion, but they are the threads that stitch intimacy back together. They are the foundation of desire. They are the proof that even in the midst of life's chaos, closeness is possible. And yes, it takes courage. Courage to show up when it's uncomfortable. Courage to admit that something is missing. That desire feels distant. That connection has frayed. Courage to risk being misunderstood, to risk vulnerability, to risk that your partner might not respond the way you hope. But that's the only way forward. Intimacy doesn't grow in comfort zones. It grows in honesty, in presence, and in risk. Now let's talk about the paradox. People often believe that fixing sex is more about sex, better techniques, or trying harder. That's a lie. Fixing sex is about fixing connection. It's about seeing your partner fully, engaging emotionally, and reclaiming that unspoken space that have been lost to busyness, distraction, or routine. It's about curiosity, not the I need an answer type of curiosity, but the I want to know you kind. And it's about acknowledgement, seeing each other without expectation or judgment, simply noticing what is and responding with care. Physical intimacy follows emotional intimacy, not the other way round. You can't force desire if attention and emotional resonance aren't present. Sex is amplified when curiosity, care, and recognition are there. Sex diminishes when they're absent. That's the reality we need to face. Not as a criticism, not as blame, but as a truth. And the moment we acknowledge the truth, we create space to do something about it. Now let's bring it closer to daily life. Imagine a week where you intentionally focus on noticing your partner. You touch more mindfully. You ask more questions. You linger in conversations instead of rushing. You laugh together, really laugh. You sit with awkward silences instead of filling them with distractions. Over time, these moments accumulate. Desire rekindles, curiosity blooms, emotional connection strengthens. The spark doesn't return overnight, but it returns, not magically, not instantly, but gradually, tangibly powerful. And it's not just about sexual desire, it's about seeing each other, feeling each other, being with each other. It's about the moments that make you feel alive, known, recognized, and wanted. When those moments are present, sex becomes an extension of life and love, not a substitute for missing connection. Let's address a truth that's often ignored: imbalance. One partner may crave closeness more than the other. One may feel desire, the other fatigue. This is normal. It doesn't mean the relationship is broken. It means the relationship is human. It requires communication, attention, and a willingness to meet each other in the messy, imperfect middle. Desire and intimacy are not static. They ebb and flow. They mirror your emotional ecosystem. Recognizing that allows you to navigate intimacy without shame or blame. Here's another layer: fear. Fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, fear of discomfort. Fear is often the silent killer of intimacy. It keeps people from saying what they need, asking for what they want, or leaning into connection when it feels risky. But fear can be overcome, not eliminated, but acknowledged, named, and faced. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is showing up anyway. Courage is asking the hard questions, sharing the difficult truths, and risking connection for the sake of closeness. And yes, it can be messy, awkward, uncomfortable. There will be missteps. There will be misunderstandings. There will be moments where one person withdraws, one person misreads, or one person doesn't respond as hoped. That's not failure. That's intimacy. That's human connection. That's the raw, real stuff that makes love alive, even when it's complicated. Now let's go back to attention again, but differently. Not as repeated mantra, but as an action. Attention is noticing. Attention is responding. Attention is choosing your partner in the small, ordinary moments, day after day. Attention is laughter, curiosity, lingering touches, and asking questions that don't have a functional purpose, but communicate care. Attention is being awake to your relationship, even when it's messy, even when it's frustrating, even when life demands otherwise. That's how desire is maintained. That's how intimacy thrives. That's how love becomes something you live, not just something you say. And here's the thing: you don't need perfection. You don't need endless energy. You don't need magic. You just need awareness, courage, and consistency. You need willingness to notice, to care, and to act on that care. Those are the ingredients of intimacy, desire, and connection. They are the antidote to the quiet drift that happens when life, work, and routines take over. They are the tools that make sex and closeness not just possible, but alive, resonant, and real. Now think about vulnerability. Vulnerability is the lifeblood of connection. You can't be fully seen without being vulnerable. You can't desire fully without exposing parts of yourself that feel uncertain or unpolished. That's scary. That's uncomfortable. That's human. And yet, it's exactly where intimacy lives. Leaning into vulnerability, even in small moments, opens the door to closeness that no routine or habit can create. And here's a practical truth: moments of vulnerability compound. The more you allow yourself to be seen, the more your partner is encouraged to do the same. The more you express curiosity, the more your partner responds. The more you engage with presence, the more desire and intimacy comes alive. It's not linear, it's not predictable, it's messy, it's real, and it's alive. Now, before I close completely, I want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for listening, for showing up, for Trusting the space to explore the messy, complicated, and real parts of life and relationships. Your attention, your presence, your willingness to sit with these conversations, it makes this podcast possible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Thank you for looking honestly at your relationships, your intimacy, and what truly matters. Thank you for allowing yourself to feel, to question, and to notice what's real. Remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about noticing your partner, noticing yourself, and choosing connection over routine. Love may set the stage, but presence writes the play. Attention fuels the fire, and vulnerability opens the door. And in facing the truth, in sitting with reality, intimacy and connection can thrive. So keep noticing, keep showing up, keep choosing presence, keep being willing to feel, to be seen, and to truly see. And I'll see you next time. Love. Thank you.